What do you do when you suspect there's something going on that you need an investigator for? Well, spending time with us right here, right now, all the way from K and Associates, is Mr. K himself, Andy K. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey, good morning. How you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic, but I gotta say, how are you doing? Are there ever any cases that you go, I don't know if I'm gonna escape with my life? But I guess if you're a good investigator, you always will, right?
So far, I've done pretty well. So yeah.
Well, and I ask that because, I don't know about you, but I personally, as a young kid, I remember growing up on the Rockford Files. And the Rockford Files was this, if you didn't know, James Garner, right? This man who's in a he gets hired by all sorts of people, and some of them are like, cases where he doesn't never want to take, but he takes it anyway, and then it finds him in harm's way. But I don't know, is that more real or not real?
That's more not real, actually. We don't do much. I mean, I grew up on those same shows, and I wish it was a little bit more real in certain ways. I mean, Magnum had a Ferrari.
Yes.
James Gardner had a Camaro. I mean, they all had cool cars and everything. And, most private investigators are hiding somewhere in a Prius or a Volkswagen.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you for being real with me on that. Cause you never want to stand out, right? You never want to be that person.
Yeah. It's, on surveillances and stuff, which fortunately I've been doing this a long time. I don't do a whole lot in the field surveillance myself. We have plenty of guys that do that, but yeah, you definitely don't want to stand out. You want to be as innocuous as possible. And in LA, a Prius does it.
Yeah, I get it. I do. Okay. So question, obviously, number one, what type of cases are the cases that you take? Cause I understand among the top, obviously the most obvious one that I would think of, obviously, is if somebody wants to hire an investigator, is your spouse and or significant other cheating on you? But before we get to that obvious one, I kind of want to talk about child custody cases. In what way, in what cases do you usually get that is important to get an investigator on?
Well, you want to find out, if the child is actually being taken care of. You want to find out if the people around the child are, good people. You don't want, mom's new boyfriend to be some, sex trafficker or, running prostitution or things like that. So we quite often we'll investigate the people that are around the children. We'll make sure that the kids are getting to school or where they're supposed to get to. A lot of times in custody, one party or the other is hiding income. So we have to find out where people are actually working and what kind of money they have. A lot of times people lie about where they're living, so we have to find them even. So there's a lot of facets to child custody investigations.
I'm glad you're bringing that up. I know of literally in my head right now 12 that are currently doing that, and none of them hired a private investigator. And what I find oftentimes is typically the one suspecting it, at least in very common cases, they just don't have the money to do so. Can I ask you, in reality though, how does that work? Maybe because I know of like 3 of them where the guy makes a lot of money, but he's the one probably doing all the bad.
Well, then not necessarily. I mean, the tide has turned a lot with custody anymore. The mothers and the fathers are both getting custody the same way.
Okay, so because there is one that I know of, I can't talk about personally. It's still in the court system, but talk about hiding money. There are some of those that are out there that say on paper they don't make a dime because that's how they structure everything, right? Offshore accounts and such. So are you saying you basically can find that asset, which you don't really need to be like, following them or tailing them, but you just have the ability to do much more than the average person?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot more access to information than normal people do. But the other thing is judges can impute income. If they see how a person is living, then they can impute the income to decide that, hey, if he's living in Beverly Hills in this house, even though he's got it in a trust and, you know, he's driving a car that's also in a trust and all these things, we know who controls that trust. We can look into that information and find out that he actually controls the money. And so at that point, if he controls it, he should be paying. I don't know many people that are in those situations that are willing to just not pay anything.
Huh.
They just want to pay, you know, what it takes to take care of a kid, usually. I mean, obviously there's some people that are just really bad people that don't want to take care of their responsibilities, but that doesn't happen.
I happen to know of 3. I don't know why my circle is around these. Maybe because you and I were meant to meet each other at some point, because I can guarantee you I'm going to hire you at some point for these families when I do have the money. But, okay, look, let's talk about the very general stuff that you guys do over there, which is probably among like 80% of your clients. Can you talk about that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. Like, what are the typical 80% of your clients that come through your doors?
I would say either people that are looking for finding out what their husband or wife are doing, their spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, that situation. Or the other thing is we do a lot of custody and criminal cases. You know, we do a lot of criminal defense cases.
Okay. And you do something that I think is really important as well, especially for those that are hiring like a nanny or in-home help, because I have to say I've heard of probably 8 different cases of which nannies are either abusing the kids. Like, how do you set that up? Or is it just more background checks on certain people that sometimes people don't end up doing, but they can run through you?
Yeah, usually it's better to be ahead of these things, and a lot of my longtime clients or people that already know us, they'll get ahead of it. And before they even hire somebody that's going to be in your house in pretty intimate terms, you want to know exactly who they are. You want, you know, and people are a little lackadaisical about it. They hire people that they don't have any information about. So, yeah, background searches are the best thing. If you suspect something, once you've already gotten that person in the house, then what we do is we set up cameras and things like that. Obviously, you've seen all the different nanny cams and the videos that have been out for decades now. And we just handle things that way.
I want to talk about something that, you know, because I think the majority of families right now, and I hate to say this, I really do, but during coronavirus, everybody's more indoors, right? And sometimes there's cases where people are outdoors, but you're like, oh, I'll be very honest. I saw somebody literally as I was driving on the freeway having an inner office romance in a business, and in the office they had their lights on. And I was like, whoa! And I saw a little too much, but I thought about that. I thought, you know, there's a lot of people saying they're going to work when in reality they're just having some fun on the side. But that could be kind of damaging to the family there at the house. So how often do you, like, what's the typical stakeout? Like, how in the majority of cases that you get of potential infidelity, how many of them are actually more true? In other words, like the person on the other side felt it, they just couldn't prove it.
Well, actually, we do statistics every year on how many of the males are right about their, you know, what they suspect, and how many of the females. And it comes out every year that the women are, you know, mid-90s, and the guys are between 45 and 55%.
Because women have that sixth sense. I don't know what it is, but they just know. And men were kind of dumb about it. So, okay, look, obviously we're running out of time, but for those that want to hire you and or check out all the services that you have over there, what's the best way to find your team?
Go to our website. It's kayandassociates.com, and it's KAYAND spelled out and associates spelled out.com. That's the best way you can see everything we do there.
Okay, I still have a lot of questions for you, and I guarantee you, I'm gonna give your name out to so many people that have been telling me, yeah, I don't know how to get or capture this villain from doing all the stuff he's done. One of them was turned into the FBI, and the FBI has been so busy with their own stuff, they haven't even done the investigation towards the monies and where it's at. That's how bad these things get that I know of. But I know of a lot of cases, so you and I are gonna become really good friends, okay?
I look forward to it.
All right, for those of you tuning in, kayandassociates.com, that's where it's at. If you are suspecting perhaps infidelity, or you're just like, I need to prove something, especially when it comes to child custody cases. I'm telling you, there are some nefarious people out there, many of which usually are the guy in the cases that I know. But as he said, I mean, look, everything's up for grabs. There really is. So if you suspect and or need somebody in your corner, KaneAssociates.com is where it's at. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back right after these messages with more.